Hi, everybody. Jennifer Schaus here. We're coming to you live today from Washington, D.C. Thanks for joining us in our webinar series covering big tech in federal contracting. This is a complimentary webinar series every Wednesday, excluding the Wednesday before Thanksgiving for 15 Wednesdays. All of our webinars are complimentary and recorded, and you can find the recordings on our YouTube channel along with 700 other government contracting webinars. First, a quick blurb about us. We are based in downtown Washington, D.C., and have been providing consulting services for government contractors for 20 plus years. We work with product, service, and software companies, primarily helping them with GSA schedules. Additional services include marketing services for any companies selling to federal contractors. You can advertise in our newsletter, sponsor webinars, sponsor events, and more. If you're looking to advertise with us or you want to sponsor this webinar series, please send us an email to the email that you see at the bottom of your screen, hello@jenniferschaus.com. A little bit about the series. As I mentioned, this is going to be for 15 Wednesdays. Everything is complimentary and recorded. The videos are on our YouTube channel. The PowerPoints, which many of them will have links in them, will be found on slideshare.net. And again, we do have advertising opportunities. Here's the look at the schedule. You can also find it over on our website under the section called Big Tech. Today we're covering Google. We'll go through the rest of the companies listed here, again, skipping the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Okay, we want to thank our partners and sponsors because without them, the series would not be possible. So the data that's provided in the series is provided through GovSpend. They are a marketing data aggregate for federal contracting data as well as state and local. And then with the help of Archie Meehan over at Fed Consult, she has pulled the data, sifted through it, put it into nice charts for us, and will explain the data that we're going to look at today and for the next 14 Wednesdays. We also want to thank our friends over at GovEvents, the premier platform for posting events. You can find our webinar schedule there as well as the recordings. And we also want to thank Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. They have a list of our webinars on their public-facing calendar as well. And we also want to thank Tom Johnson over at Set Aside Alert. That's the go-to publication for small women-owned, veteran-owned, HUBZone. Who else did I miss there on checkboxes? For all of the set-aside designations in federal contracting. We encourage you to sign up over at setasidealert.com. We've got some corporate sponsors that we want to thank: C3 Integrated Solutions, FedBiz Access, FedPub Seminars, GovPro AI, and Robert Turner Consulting. First, a little bit about FedBiz Access, the FedBiz Access Advantage. FedBiz Access empowers small businesses with the tools, resources, and expertise needed to succeed in the federal marketplace. With over 23 years of experience, the team has helped clients secure over $34.7 billion in awards. They guide businesses through the complexities of government contracting with innovative marketing solutions, personalized support, and a steadfast commitment to your success. By fostering strong relationships and delivering exceptional results, they've become a trusted partner for businesses seeking to expand their federal contracting opportunities. Experience the Federal Business Access difference and unlock your potential today. You can call them direct at 844-631-7121. You've got all the information that you need there on your screen. C3 Integrated Solutions. If you're thinking about getting in on big tech contracts with the Department of Defense, you need to prepare for CMMC. Compliance could be a requirement as soon as the spring of 2025. So it's important to start now, no matter where you are in the process, whether you're still in planning mode or you've started and stopped, C3 can help. C3 provides a prescribed path to compliance that relieves 80% of all of your CMMC Level 2 assessment objectives, including 100% of all IT-related objectives, and supports you through the remaining 20%. Ensure your competitive advantage, lock in valuable DoD contracts, and get started with CMMC today. Contact C3 for more information by visiting their website. You've got it there on your screen, c3isit.com. Next, we want to thank our friends over at FedPub Seminars. For over 65 years, Federal Publications Seminars, FPS, has been the premier provider of government contracts training, widely regarded as the industry's gold standard. Expert-led courses offer comprehensive education for all levels, from beginners to advanced professionals, covering essential, up-to-date topics crucial to government contracting. Learn more about FPS and their training solutions at fedpubseminars.com. And it looks like they have an event coming up on December 4th and 5th over at Tyson's Corner. You can scan the QR code that you see on your screen there for more information. We also want to thank R. Turner Consulting. They're a boutique government contracting consulting firm providing proposal writing, business development, market intelligence, and more. You can contact Robert Turner and his team by clicking on any of the links that you see there at the bottom of your screen. We also want to thank GovPro AI. They are the AI-generated proposal writing firm, and their website is govpro.ai. We want to thank GovPro AI for sponsoring our webinar series as well. Okay, as I mentioned, GovSpend provides the data and FedConsult extracts the data, and Ms. Archisa Meehan is going to be with us for the duration of the 15 webinars that we're covering. And Archisa, over to you to say a little bit about yourself and FedConsult, and I'm really honored and flattered to have you here today.
Oh, thank you, Jennifer. I love all your webinars, and thank you for including me. For those who don't know me, my name is Archisa Meehan. I am the founder of FedConsult, a company that is focused on providing federal market intelligence consulting. We work with companies and agencies and help them with their industry analysis, including competitive analysis, marketing strategy, and more. Previous to founding my own company, I was head of federal at GovSpend and FedMind. So very happy to be here, Jennifer, and back to you.
Great, thanks, Archisa. I appreciate that. And let's go ahead and dig in. So today we're featuring Google. The legal name is Alphabet Incorporated, as you guys probably know. And we're gonna look at some basic company information. What we pulled was information based on what they're doing in the public sector. So in public sector is obviously going to include federal, state, local education. If you hop over to their website, there's actually a lot of good information as far as what they're doing in the public sector, and some, I think, great examples of how to create a website, even if you're a small business, a website that's going to be custom for federal contracting. So they tell you here basically kind of what their mission statement is, and when we look at their AI initiatives, you'll see, which is really the big focus on their website. So I've got their website there, but they've got it broken into generative AI, as well as the AI and machine learning and the other components that you see there. As you scroll through that, they've got their case studies, which again is, more or less their past performance, and it covers everything from federal, state, and local, basically their public sector. And if you click on any of the examples that they have, you can read a full write-up. Again, this is a great example of some ways that you may, if you're a small business considering designing your website, to make it easy for government buyers to understand what you do and more or less also what you have done in the past. As you scroll down, it gives you more information about some of the accolades and awards that they've received in the industry. Some are related to AI and defense, and it covers their Google Workplace as well. They do have some information on their training, which they have partnered or delivering through Carahsoft, which if you guys are in the DC metro area or involved in IT in any way, shape, or form, Carahsoft should be a household name to you. Most of the trainings appear to not have a cost and are virtual. I'm not sure if they bump you out if you don't have a .gov or .mil website, but the one that stuck out to me, and they've got multiple trainings for every day, which if you are in IT, this could be potentially helpful. But the big one there is on digital transformation, which obviously is a hot topic. So make sure that you're using this information as you are looking to either do business as a subcontractor or a partner or joint venture or mentor protege with Google. We also hopped over to their LinkedIn. They've got their main website there with their headquartered in California with 10,000 plus employees. And then you also want to be cognizant of all of these players are going to have a public policy division within their company because they have the deep pockets to do so. So you probably want to make sure that you're clicking on the button to follow what they're doing in the way of public policy and how it relates to your business. Okay, we looked over at their stock price because I think this can be relevant as far as understanding if government makes up a lot of their business, and if so, does that impact their stock price? We've got their ticker. They're on the NASDAQ exchange. The top 5 institutional stockholders, some names here that perhaps you're familiar with, at least the first 3. BlackRock seems to be everywhere. Vanguard, again, household name, as well as State Street. We looked at just a snapshot of the current. This was a couple of days ago, hovering around 165. I think it's, as of last night, it was 159. And we're not advocating that you buy their stock or sell it if you have it. It's just an overall view of the company to really get a pulse on where they are. It'll make you more intelligent in your conversations with them if you are aware of some of these factors. So we also went back to the inception date of when they became a publicly traded company to kind of follow where they have been in their various stock prices and different things that happen in the economy that have affected that. Okay, lobbying information we got from Open Secrets. That's a public website that anybody can go on to. The last full fiscal year that we were able to pull was 2023. They've spent a little bit more than 14 million in including their subsidiaries in lobbying information. And you can really go into the weeds here and get more detailed information, but it looks like they peaked there at 2018 with about 22 million. I'm sorry, I think million in lobbying information. Again, this should really be part of what you are again learning about the company to again have better conversations, more educated conversations with the company. 2024 is incomplete because it has not quite wrapped up. 2023, from 2020 through 2023, it looks like it has grown after a big dip from 2018 to 19. 2020 was low. Perhaps that was because of COVID. I'm not sure. But again, just be aware of the money that these companies do spend on lobbying. Okay, now I'm going to go over to Archisa here for the federal government data when we look at sam.gov. And Archisa, I'm going to put myself on mute. Just let me know when you're ready for your next slide.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we're going to be looking at all the data that's, I've got from GovSpend FedMine from their analysis of FPDS and all the other various data sets. So looking at Google, you can actually see that we have Google has a couple of entities that are actually doing business with the federal government. So you have Google LLC and Google Public Sector. We do see many times organizations having multiple entities for a variety of different reasons. And so as we go through all the data in the slides, know that I've basically integrated both or combined the information for both the organizations. Next slide, please. So, and next slide. So we're going to look at the combined data for the civilian agencies. I found it actually pretty interesting to look at Google and the contracts that they've won, right? Because many times when we think of Google, we think of Google Cloud, Google, all the various services that Google provides. But when you start really looking at Google as a company and you start delving into the data and the federal contracts that they won, you really get an idea of what Google is doing, what are they up to, things like that. So they recently, rather, I want to say August 28th is when they actually got the signed contract from the Department of Agriculture for $1.1 million. And this is actually for Google Cloud Services. So it's a brand new contract for them. And I'm sure that's going to be the start of them really delving more into the civilian world also. Next slide.
Yep, and real quick, I'm going to jump in because
Yeah.
this Department of Agriculture contract, if you guys have been with us from the beginning of the presentation, when I had the page up that showed their case studies and past performance, I believe they do have a blurb there on Department of Agriculture. So if you guys want to read more about that, I direct you there for the narrative details on that. So.
Oh, perfect. Yep. And now we're going to delve a little bit into the contracts that Google's won at DoD, mainly DoD. And this is where it really gets interesting because you can see that they did win a small contract in 2020 at the Air Force, but then you could see that there is a lot of focus at the Department of Defense. In FY22, they actually won $1.4 million. And 900,000 of the contracts that Google has won are OTAs, or other transaction authority contracts. Part of it is for AI and machine learning, and it sort of is tying in with everything that you've seen previously in the slides. For processing aerial imagery, that was pretty interesting. They also have won almost $3 million as OTAs for air logistics optimization, and almost $6 million in contracts for their joint warfighting cloud capability programs. Now, a couple of things when you see OTAs, and I want to say, Jennifer, you did do a couple of webinars on OTAs. If you are in technology, I would highly recommend you pay attention to OTAs. We've definitely seen a lot more awards happening as OTAs, and you can see it's happening a lot even with the larger companies. It really is there for a lot of innovative technology and R&D work. So would definitely tell you to keep an eye out for OTAs. And then, so the thing that I want to make sure when we talk about OTAs is that there are no NAICS codes. So when I show you the NAICS analysis, OTAs don't have any NAICS codes. They do have PSC codes. Also, when we start looking at subcontract information, we don't see that under OTAs. So just a couple of nuances when we look at contracts. And then the final thing that I always want to point out when we're looking at the contract awards, the Department of Defense has up to a 90-day delay before they make all the federal contract data public. So definitely I'm going to expect to see the FY24 number for Google to be a lot more once all the contract data comes through. So I would say by the end of December is when we'll start seeing all the DoD data properly in the systems. So next slide, Jennifer, please.
Sure, and I'm going to jump in here just in case anybody's a little bit new to government contracting. OTAs, again, as Archisa mentioned, other transaction authorities. These are non-FAR, or Federal Acquisition Regulation, non-FAR regulated contracts, typically used by DoD, Department of Energy. I think DOT is in that mix, and I think also I want to say NASA and energy, but I'm not positive. As Archisa mentioned, on our website under the tab at the top called webinars, we've got a variety of topics, and there's a couple webinars on OTAs that will give you the down and dirty on those. So thanks for your explanation as well.
Yes, it's important. And now I wanted to talk a little bit more about other relevant contract information. So let's go to the next slide. We have to touch on industry codes. We're going to, next slide. Again, keep in mind when I'm looking at the NAICS codes, we do not have the awards that Google has won as OTAs, but most of their contracts are in the 518-210, which is the data processing, hosting NAICS codes, with a little bit in 519130. and a little bit in all other legal services, you do see these interesting NAICS codes with contract awards. But when you start looking at the PSC codes, and I really have find that a lot of times it's more important to pay attention to the PSC codes because they really sort of tell you what the work is for. And you could see in this case that the DB10 or IT and Telecom Compute as a Service PSC code has the bulk of the awards, which sort of makes sense with the type of contracts that they won at almost $7.4 million. And the R&D Defense System award is at 3.8 million, which sort of ties in with that OTA that Google has. So always important to pay attention to the PSC codes. And I think I'm seeing more and more, as over the years that it makes more sense to really, really keep our eyes on the PSC codes. Next slide. I also wanted to touch on the subcontract data that's out there, right? The subcontract data that is made public really comes from FSRS, which feeds into USA spending. And we really don't have any subcontracts that Google has awarded in the system. I'm sure, there are a couple of contracts. I want to say the JWCC contract has a subcontract requirement. However, none of that data has been made public. But if we look at some of the subcontracts that Google has won, next slide, you could actually see that they've won some subcontracts that with Accenture, as also with Agile Decision Services and Mantech. So always interesting to pay attention to the subcontract data and see what that data is. And that data really is available in USA spending, and it's always self-reported. So next slide. What I then, wanted to touch a little bit on is the fact that Google does sell a lot of its solutions, and I decided that I would do a keyword search. And I really used Google, Gmail, Google Cloud, GCP, Google Workspace were the products that I could think of. And I wanted to see how are these solutions being sold within the federal agency, these solutions being sold, to get a better understanding. So if I go to the next slide, you actually can see that Google does sell these solutions, and in FY23, almost $50 million was sold by about 73 companies. 42% of the awards were as other than small business, with about 58% going as small business dollars. And if I look at the contracts or the companies that were actually selling these solutions, you have a pretty interesting mix of resellers and providers, including GovPlace, Carasoft, FedBiz IT Solutions, SoftRamp, CDW, Thundercat. So it's a pretty interesting mix of companies that actually sell all the various Google services and solutions. So it's always interesting and important as you're trying to understand and plan to look at the products a company might be selling through other companies or resellers, or it might be part of a solution. So let's go to the next slide.
Yep, and I'm just going to jump in here too. Sorry, I'm guessing that good. Some of the Carasoft revenue is probably coming from the earlier slide that I showed, where it looks like they are the platform for the AI training. So again, you can dig into that.
Yes.
Yep, and for anyone that's new to federal contracting, other than small, just means that it's a large business. So you're either small or you're large. There's really nothing in between. And we'll go ahead and move on here.
And then, I again thought it's important for us to understand, where are these, which are the agencies that are buying these solutions. And I think it's also important to see trends, within each agency. Of course, you can always dig in deeper using just specific keywords and NAICS codes and PSC codes, right? But if I just look at FY23, Air Force, Homeland, DoD, Department of Justice, the VA started using some Google products too. It's always important and interesting to see which agencies are slowly, adopting a lot more of the Google technology is the way I look at it. And it sort of, again, ties in with what Jennifer talked about earlier with all the AI initiatives that Google's getting into and all the cloud initiatives. So just wanted to point that out. Next slide.
Yep, and just a note here, the FY24 numbers are incomplete. So if you're just looking at the top line, for example, the Air Force, you're going to say, wow, it looks like they really dropped in revenue, but that fiscal year we are currently in, it is incomplete. So there's probably some big dollars going into that still will remain, and it would be interesting to go back and look at that later.
Totally. And again, you know, there is that 90-day delay with all DoD numbers. So I keep that in mind too. It's a good point. And then I wanted to sort of end on the IT initiatives. You know, the IT initiatives are important. These are where the federal government is actually budgeting the large IT programs. And you could actually, you know, look this up if you're using a provider such as GovSpend. You know, you could actually look it up in there. But it's also available, I want to say, in the IT dashboard. And I found it interesting to see that the first initiative at Homeland, which sort of, again, ties in with those awards that we saw at Homeland in the previous slide. You have Google very much part of the cloud and data center requirement, along with Amazon and Microsoft Azure. So definitely it's up there. What I found pretty interesting was the Air Force initiative for pilot training transformation, where in FY25 they've budgeted about $14 million. And that pilot training transformation is deployed on Google Cloud. So again, I found that pretty interesting, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. The other initiatives are smaller initiatives where Google is mentioned, but you know, it is important for us to pay attention to the IT initiatives. I think we don't do that a lot of times, and there's a lot of wealth of information, especially because it tells you how much money is actually budgeted and how that initiative is doing as you start getting into details. And I want to say that's it for me. Back to you, Jennifer.
Super. Thanks, Archisa. I really appreciate the deep dive there into Google. Now we're just going to look at some federal sector news as we close out the web. And let me move to the next slide. So these are just some screenshots of what we see out there when we take a look at news, which if this is a company or any company that you're potentially looking to subcontract with, you should be set up for Google Alerts so that, again, you're cognizant of what's happening with the company. If there's, you know, a merger, acquisition, if they've had a change of CEO or someone in their C-level exec office, etc. So a couple things here that are happening or have happened. Accenture, Guidehouse here are mentioned, and just some of the FedRAMP information as well. This is all pretty current. We grabbed this information this week. So again, I'd encourage you to kind of read through this data and information, and you'll see that it ties back to the numbers and contracts that Archisa went through. So and you can also find some contact information here. So their Google Public Sector CEO is Karen DeHoot. You're going to see on the next page who their civilian head is. Or maybe, I'm sorry, maybe the page after this. So again, just some more information that you should be up to date on. They've got their top secret authorizations for DoD, intelligence community. Here she is, Tedra Burgess. She's the managing director of their civilian sales. So again, you could probably find these folks on LinkedIn, but if you are well read and understanding what's happening within the company, where are they focused, what have they done, there's so much public data out there just by going to Google itself, but also by using the data that Archisa shared with us. So that is the information that we have. I believe this is it. Again, we want to thank GovSpend for providing the data. Archisa Meehan over at Fed Consult for providing the analysis and putting this together. And thanks to all of our sponsors who make this possible, as well as everybody who has attended. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a like, leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. If you're looking for the recording, again, you'll find it on our YouTube channel. If you subscribe to it, it doesn't cost you anything, just 2 seconds of your time to click the subscribe button, and the PowerPoint will be over on slideshare.net. You get all this within 24 hours of the webinar, and sponsorships are still available for the series. You can contact us at the email you see at the bottom of your screen, hello@jenniferschaus.com. And again, that's it. Thanks everybody for attending, and we hope to see you next week when we cover Facebook and their interactions with the federal government. Thank you.